All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep, and I mean deep, into a question that has puzzled, well, pretty much everyone since, like forever.
We're talking about the very definition of life.
Not just how to recognize something's alive, which, let's be honest, is tricky enough sometimes, but
Yeah.
what makes it alive in the first place?
And to tackle this, we're going straight to the source, an academic research paper that, well, it kind of throws the rule book out the window.
Oh yeah, this paper doesn't hold back. Like right off the bat, there's this quote that just grabbed me. It says, "Nobody has the slightest idea how anything material could be conscious. Nobody even knows what it would be like to have the slightest idea about how anything material could be conscious." I mean, talk about setting the bar high. So if we don't even get consciousness, how are we supposed to define life?
That's precisely the challenge this paper takes on. And, get this, it claims it actually does have a new idea. They call it the Volitional-Agent Criterion.
Okay, hold up. Before we get all sci-fi on this, let's back up a bit. Why do we even need a new definition of life? What's wrong with the way we've been thinking about it all this time?
Well, traditionally, we've defined life based on this sort of checklist, right? Metabolism, reproduction, growth, response to stuff.
Right, like it eats, it makes more of itself, it gets bigger, it reacts to its surroundings. Seems simple enough.
Except it gets fuzzy fast.
Yeah, okay, good point. What about like viruses? They reproduce, they evolve, but they don't exactly eat or grow the way, say, a plant does.
Exactly. Or those crazy ecosystems they found around deep-sea vents where things are living off chemicals, not sunlight. Do those fit our neat little checklist? This paper argues that we've been stuck with this limited view and we need something more fundamental, something that cuts to the core of what truly separates living things from non-living things.
And this is where the whole machine analogy thing comes in, right?
Bingo. For centuries, we've tried to understand living things by comparing them to machines. But this paper is like, hold on, folks, that's where you're going wrong. Think about like classic 20th century machines. Super complex, yeah, but ultimately predictable. Their structure and their function were totally separate.
So like you've got a car engine, which is distinct from the car's body, but in a living thing, that line between structure and function is way more blurry.
Precisely. And life has this inherent unpredictability that those old school machines just didn't have. This paper argues that if we really want to understand life, we got to ditch the machine mindset.
All right, so what are they proposing instead? Spill the beans.
Brace yourself, because this is where it gets wild. They say that agency, the ability to make choices, is the defining characteristic of life.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Back up a second. Is this paper suggesting that even like a tiny little bacterium is making choices? That seems, well, pretty radical to say the least.
It is radical. And it forces us to look at even the simplest life forms in a whole new light. Instead of just a bunch of chemical reactions happening, what if they're actually acting with intention?
Okay, you've officially got my attention. Let's dive deeper into this volitional agent criterion. What exactly does it mean for something to have agency?
At its heart, it's about a system being far from equilibrium. Not just sitting there, but actively using energy. And then the crucial part, coupling that energy flow with this ability to intelligently control matter to achieve a goal. It's not just complexity, it's directed action.
So it's not enough to be a complicated system with lots of moving parts. It has to be using energy to actively shape its environment to get what it wants to achieve specific goals.
You got it. And the paper uses the example of a bacterial cell. It's not just a bag of chemicals. It's sensing its surroundings, it's gathering resources, it's even engineering its little environment to suit its needs.
So even a single-celled organism is displaying a level of agency we wouldn't normally attribute to something so, well, seemingly simple.
That's the mind-blowing part. This paper argues that agency, this choice-making, it's present even at the most fundamental levels of life. And here's where things get really interesting. This whole criterion, this volitional agent criterion, the paper suggests it might not just apply to, organic life as we know it.
Hold on. Are we talking about, like, AI becoming alive? Because that's some serious sci-fi stuff right there.
It is a mind-bending idea, no doubt.
Uh,
The paper does say theoretically artificial systems could fit this criterion. But we got to be careful not to confuse this with just like mimicking human-like behavior.
So not just passing the Turing test.
Exactly. The Turing test, that's all about whether a machine can chat so well you can't tell it's not human. But that could be just clever programming, right? No real understanding, no awareness on the machine's part.
So, like, a chatbot could ace the Turing test, but wouldn't necessarily be considered alive under this volitional agent thing?
Precisely. The volitional-agent criterion, it demands something way deeper. It's not about mimicking. It's about showing genuine, non-programmable adaptive behavior, like true intelligence, not just simulated intelligence.
Okay, yeah, I see the distinction. But how do you actually test for something like that? How do you know if a system, whether it's a bacterium or some AI, is truly showing this agency?
And that's where they introduce the volitional agent test. The paper actually lays out a practical experiment to put this whole criterion to the test.
I love it when theory gets down and dirty. Tell me more about this test.
So the basic idea is you give the system a challenge, an obstacle, something in its way. Then you see if it can come up with unpredictable solutions to achieve its goal. Can it adapt and overcome in ways you couldn't have programmed? That's a sign of true agency.
So not just solving the problem, but solving it in a way that shows real understanding, creative problem solving. Like it's outsmarted the test itself.
Exactly. It's those moments of ingenuity, those sparks of creativity that suggest there's more going on than just following instructions, than just pre-programmed responses. And they give an example of how this could be used with bacteria. Scientists could do these things called gene knockout experiments.
Gene knockout, refresh my memory on that one.
Basically, you remove a gene that's helpful to the bacteria, but not essential for its survival, like deliberately handicapping it to see how it reacts.
So throwing a wrench in the works and seeing if it just breaks down or if it can figure out a way to keep going.
Exactly. If it just carries on as programmed, well, that supports the simple biological machine idea. But if it can somehow overcome that handicap in a way you couldn't have predicted.
That suggests it's more than just a pre-programmed automaton, right? It's adapting, it's overcoming.
You got it. But the paper admits, even if a bacterium passes this test, some hardcore skeptics are going to say it's just super, super complex programming at work. And that's where the iterative nature of the test comes in.
Iterative, meaning you don't just test it once and call it a day.
Right. You keep adding new challenges, upping the difficulty until you really push the system to its limits.
It's like you're playing chess against this system, trying to anticipate its every move, and then bam, it does something totally unexpected.
Great analogy.
Yeah.
And if it keeps adapting, keeps surprising you with its solutions, well, that strengthens the case for true agency, for real intelligence.
This is blowing my mind. We've gone from what is life to the idea that maybe even tiny organisms are making choices, to the possibility of artificial systems being considered alive.
And the paper leaves us with an even bigger question to ponder, something that really stretches our understanding of life and consciousness.
All right, lay it on me. What's this mind-blowing question?
Well, if this whole agency thing, if that really is the key to defining life, it kind of forces us to ask, what if awareness itself, consciousness, isn't just something that comes from, complex brains like ours? What if it's a fundamental property of, like, the universe itself?
Whoa, hold up. You're saying, like, it's not just that some bacteria might be making choices, but consciousness itself might be baked into reality at the most basic level.
It's a wild thought, right? But this volitional agent criterion, it makes us consider that possibility. Maybe consciousness doesn't just suddenly appear when you've got enough neurons firing. Maybe it's always been there, part of the fabric of the universe, just waiting for the right conditions to, express itself.
So then does that mean, like, consciousness could be way more common in the universe than we think? It's not just us humans sitting here having this conversation. Maybe there are other forms of awareness out there, experiencing things in ways we can't even fathom.
It's a pretty tantalizing idea, isn't it? Really highlights how much we still don't know about life, about consciousness, about the universe itself.
Well, I think it's safe to say this paper has given us a lot to chew on. For anyone listening who's as intrigued as I am, I definitely recommend checking out the full paper. And hey, the good news is, thanks to our deep dive today, you're actually equipped to understand it.
You've got the key concepts, the context. You can really dig into their arguments and explore these ideas for yourself.
So what are you waiting for? Dive in, ponder those big questions, and let us know what you think. Maybe we'll even do a follow-up based on your insights. Until then, happy pondering, everyone.